When you build a deck in Pokemon Pocket, there's a 3 energy type limit. The game doesn't let you add more. But I wanted to make a deck with all 8 energy types, and there had to be some way to break the limit. Turns out there's 2 ways. The easy way is not that exciting. The hard way is to use a special deck built to break the limit. By using specific cards, it's possible to generate every energy type in one game. Except that's really hard to do in an actual match. Anyone who tries to do that is probably crazy. Today my goal is to generate all 8 energy types against random opponents. And to make this even harder, I'm doing this challenge in the win event queue. So I'll be playing people that are trying their best to win. So how are we going to do this? Out of the 8 energy types, we're going to specially generate 5 of them. We can get electric and psychic from abilities, so we can use those as soon as we draw our evolutions. Getting fighting energy is not too hard either, as long as we have Onix and Brock. For water, we'll have to get lucky with everyone's favorite supporter, and Manaphy's attack can give water energy to our bench as well. The trickiest one is grass energy. Execute's attack puts grass energy onto itself, but because it's an attack, he has to be in the active. So if our opponent can do at least 50 damage, which is pretty likely, Execute goes down and so does our only grass energy. We'll need to draw him early when our opponent isn't set up yet. That just leaves fire, dark, and metal. We can generate those through our energy zone, which means all 8 energy types are now covered. The final deck list is a bit of a mess. In order to fit everything in, I only play 1 copy of each Pokemon. That means if any of them get KO'd, the run is over. I was going to need some amazing luck to make this work. But how long could this really take? Our first opponent was a Pikachu deck, which was going to be tough. I was hoping to see Execute early, but my Pokeball had other plans. My opponent couldn't find Pikachu on their turn, so I had a bit more time to work with. I used both of my communications trying to find Execute and still didn't get him. After I used Teleport, my opponent benched the Run Killer. With Pikachu ready to attack next turn, Execute wouldn't stand a chance anymore. And look who showed up immediately after. Yeah, time to try again. On my second attempt, my only basic was Onix, which is probably the worst possible start for this challenge. Onix has a 4 energy cost retreat, and I can't use Execute or Manaphy until I retreat him. So while I was slowly attaching energies, my opponent set up their board, which included a Glaceon that Execute cannot survive. Okay, attempt 3 and... uh-oh. I did start Execute and Manaphy, which was really good, but I was against Darkrai, which was bad. Although this run was looking promising. I found Magneton early and Misty was kind to me. This was the best run so far. Except one problem. Darkrai finally had 3 energy and none of my Pokemon could survive his attack. This was a loss, but we had our new personal best of 4 types. With lots of momentum from that new record, I was even stronger going into run 4. I was prepared for anything. There is no momentum for this challenge. I either get lucky or I don't. And this was not the game. I had Manaphy but no Misty, and Execute was nowhere to be found by the time Cresselia was ready to attack. Run 5 was the same story, except now I was getting wiped by just an Ivysaur. But surely run 6 is better. Now I was against Gyarados. My opponent missed both their Misties, which should have bought me a lot of time, but I couldn't get much set up. By the time they got Gyarados online, I only had Manaphy and Kirlia in play. They knocked out my Manaphy, and I was sure that this was another failed run. But at least I could get my new record of 5 energies, because I drew into Gardevoir the next turn. And the run should have ended there. All Gyarados needed to do was knock out my only Pokemon on board, and they'd win. Except... they spared me. Maybe they were giving me a chance. Maybe this was the run. I drew into Execute and now I had 6 types in play. Maybe this person was going to help. I guess they changed their mind, and now my run was over. This was the win event after all, and these people are here to win. But my opponent's moment of hesitation gave me some hope. Surely there was someone out there kind enough to help me out. Moth Overlord. I was up against one of the best decks in the game. They started with Draudigan, so I'd have some time to work with. I had a decent start, with some good Misty luck, an early Ralts, and a Gardevoir in my hand. Luckily, my opponent's start was not as good, with them only finding a Magneton and no Darkrai. I had some amazing luck from my communication, trading Onix for the evolution I needed, and my opponent still had nothing. All they could do was power up Magneton. I drew into Magnemite and evolved into Gardevoir, the fastest I had evolved so far. Everything was going well, but I was still far from a perfect board, and it was only a matter of time before he shows up. Now this was a race. I needed to set everything up before my opponent could retreat their dread again. All I could do was hope for good draws as my opponent continued to set up their bench. With Onyx and Brock, I increased my type count to 6. My opponent still couldn't retreat, but they knocked Manaphy out after their 3rd Nightmare Aura. But this was part of the plan. Now my bench had an open spot, ready for Execute. With Execute's attack, I had 7 types in play, only 1 away from finishing this challenge. All I needed was to find Magneton, except I only had 2 turns max to do it. If my opponent attached 2 energies to Druddigon, they could retreat and wreak havoc with Darkrai. Except that's not what they had in mind. They attached the energy to Darkrai. Instead of working towards the guaranteed win, Moth Overlord was giving me a chance. And now there was only 1 card left to find. After using Magneton's ability, I had all 8 energy types in play. Psychic, Fire, Water, and Dark on Gardevoir, Fighting and Metal on Onyx, Lightning on Magneton, and Grass on Execute. There was just one thing left to do: win the game. Just kidding. If there was anyone who deserved this win, it was Moth Overlord. Anyways, I had accomplished my goal of breaking the energy limit. Thank you to Moth Overlord, and thank you for watching.